200,000 times better option than any MPP candidate. They can't even speak truth to power. Why? It's only at the primaries that they started speaking the truth to their power, because they wanted to be president.
Kabi babin kabi die makabi empanyimfo akabi expert akabi o ma share ade o ma checha ye kwan wo so o hwe tie no o kabi no na ama SCP esita enti no enen komodie no hot Thursday no sa men ka wo hu ma twe me board na ma twe me pen na eja ye fire ni ebon komo ni ebon nsemu ni ade abatene ade adwa no na still a ebesa so ye hot but hot we say no with an expert opinion on the hotness of today's discussion, or in the hotness of today's discussion. Now we are pleased to have in the studio a former deputy chief of staff, is a former deputy defense minister, and a former minister of health. He's also a former deputy campaign manager during the 2020 generals for the NDC, and then currently he is director in charge of International Relations Directorate for the NDC. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Segbefia. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning, Ishmael, and thank you for inviting me onto the show this morning, and good morning to your viewers and listeners as well.
It's a pleasure having you, Honorable.
Thank you.
Yes. I think 208 campaigns, right?
Campaign coordinator.
Yes, for the NDC.
Yes, for the Mills.
Yes, that was when we should have met one-on-one.
Oh, okay.
Because I was on the grounds then.
Oh, okay.
And then one or two, yes. I couldn't get the opportunity to interview you.
Okay.
So it's a pleasure to add you to my
your portfolio.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Right. Permit me, Honorable. You could send me questions on subjects that we are discussing in the studio. I want to see the questions from how you understand it and from how you also would love to have. If you had this opportunity, you would interact with Honorable Segbefia. So, WhatsApp and then text 0551 55 55 06. Na efa esende efa bra Mr. Ahamedi Kanka Okasa said ya upebia anya dey say me pretend over that particular conversation, but the obusa no assertive na relevant na ebemia honorable kra na you know, so you can count on me to ask honorable for you. I would love you to send me questions nefa busa menen wo scope a ebedi hu nkomo, but it Abrabono, and yet we follow script no. You be doing come on. Near Sanso man hot to say the hot Thursday in say now. Right. Yeah, my conversations no more now. Honorable with the enra budget in a pen wasam and enra obe share a honor. Since the budget came, or the read of the budget was yesterday, as much as it's not part of our conversation initially, it is a national issue. And it has everything to do with you and Ghanaians as well. Have you seen it, Honorable?
I haven't got the original budget. I've got highlights of it, and first of all, Medawase one name said "Mintu Mikachi Bebre." So, me pese me pancho uvi se me cambrofo. So, I just want to say that we've seen the budget. No surprises, except that we didn't expect any further taxes, or we'd hoped that we wouldn't have any further taxes because we already taxed to the hilt. But we are also not surprised that there were taxes, because the government has run itself into a hole. And when they were being warned by many, both us as a political party in the NDC and social commentators and businessmen, that the path they were taking would not end well, they refused to listen and continued borrowing huge amounts. So they have run themselves into a hole which there is no easy way out. There are two things you have to do when you end up in the situation that the government finds itself. One, you must increase your revenue, and two, you must cut expenditure. They are not able to increase revenue overnight, so they keep taxing those who already are in the system, and expanding the net is not easy. And for you to get the necessary help you need from the IMF, you must increase your revenue to a certain level and also reduce your expenditure. The saddest part of it is that in all this expenditure of the last 7 years, it has not gone into real production. So by the time we left office, President Kufuor found oil. After many years, Chachichuka Tademol had gone through a process. Finally, President Kufuor's government found oil. President Mills' government was able to exploit the oil to go into production after he came into office. When President MAHAMA came, he continued that production or exploration, so that by the time we were leaving office and they came into power, they came and inherited 3 oil wells, unprecedented in the history of Ghana, for that matter, many countries. So they had a lot of revenue. There was a lot of money. We had even exited an IMF program. Why did we go to the IMF? Because we had to fix Tumso. So we had to borrow money, take finances to bring all these plans that we had, so that Ghana will come out of that. And it wasn't created by President Mahama. If people remember well, under President Kufuor, even pastors went to Akosombo to pray for rainfall to deal with Dumso. So President Mahama had to use a lot of funding to sort out Dumso, which we fixed before we left office. But there was clear reason why that borrowing and that money had to be used, along with all the other infrastructure. You know about the schools, you know about the hospitals, the E-blocks, etc. So what we gave to the MPP when we left office was a stable economy. We hadn't borrowed 1p by the time we left office in 2026 from the Bank of Ghana. Our books with Bank of Ghana was 0. 3 oil wells, infrastructure, hospitals, everything in place. And yet, he was supposed to be incompetent. We are now 7 years down the line. Where is the new oil well to bring revenue? Not one. We don't even know where the next exploration, we don't have a clue. So what you are left from oil process, what we left is what you are, where we are. No increase. Cocoa, which was to hold Ghana all these years before even oil came, is in decline. In fact, we owe. Cocoa board is in a problem. So when the budget are there remedies to crank up or improve the cocoa sector, I don't see much. Where are we going to get the extra revenue to deal with the whole? Because of the price of what you are paying cocoa farmers, the smuggling is still, the little that we have is still also being smuggled out to neighboring countries. So the budget is not doing anything to enhance our revenue generation in areas where we get good revenue. Cocoa. We don't have any oil wells coming on stream. So let's look at gold. Whatever money is being made from Galamsey, we are using to deal with security. We are to stop the Galamsey. We are polluting our waters. We are losing cocoa farms. Trees are being cut. Our crops are contaminated. It's affecting our exports. Work done. Zero. You make the Galamsey money, you use it to go and buy chlorine to clean your waters. Because no products. Europe is saying, don't export to us. We've checked your products. The level is too high of chemicals. So, on the one hand, you are getting here, on the other hand. Meanwhile, the Galamsey revenue, you haven't got a system to check it. What do I mean? If you go to Europe and the gold is unique, if you go abroad and you take a piece of gold to anybody or to the people who deal in gold, they can tell you immediately where it came from. This is Indian gold. This is Arab gold. This is from South Africa. This is from Ghana. This is from Sierra Leone. They tell you. Same with diamonds. And for example, with gold, they tell you that this year we got 1 ton of gold from Ghana. It's with us. We have 1 ton. Meanwhile, in Ghana, our books is telling us that we got only 750,000. Not, or should I say, 3/4 of a ton. Where's the 250,000? Which brings us to corruption. What measures are we taking to deal with corruption? Because in some cases we are actually producing, but we are not getting the value of what we are producing. So the government has dug a very huge hole. And without a change, nothing will change. This is the bottom line. And if the government was serious, they would have started that change with changing some of the faces that have put us in the hole. Why do we still have the same finance ministry people around? I saw a clip. He's coming from Parliament. The finance people have all come out clapping. Clapping for what? The same clapping they did when they said that we have got to take Eurobond and it was given to us. That has put us in the hole. Another budget has been read, you are clapping. Why? Because perhaps the ambition of being a vice president still exists. Look, we have to get serious as a country.
3 oil fields.
Yes.
$250 million in the reserve.
Yes.
No single borrowing from the Bank of Ghana.
No.
And 56% in nominal terms, 120 billion Ghana cedi public sector debt that was left. If more than 400 billion and a projected 260 billion more is what is required or has been used so far to manage the economy, what happened to the income from the oil, the gold, the cocoa, the bauxite, the manganese, the raw materials? What happened, Honorable?
Well, I touched on it. I talked about corruption. Nobody can account for it. Why? The COVID funds, has anybody properly accounted for how COVID expenditure worked? Except to say that it was quite ironic that that money came in an election year. And all kind of sweetness were being thrown left, right, and center under the guise of COVID. Everything has been under the guise of COVID and Russia-Ukraine. Russia-Ukraine war or COVID. Don't they affect the whole world? Is it only Ghana that suffered COVID? Why? There are countries existing where more and more people had fatalities. If fatalities is the level you are going to use to measure the effect of COVID, there are many more countries that had huge fatalities, even in developed countries. Some will say, in inverted commas, that Africa was even blessed. Because in terms of fatalities, we didn't have that number. Close. So why COVID and Russia, Ukraine? Yes, there was an effect across board. But why is it that our currency has taken a dive so deep and others didn't? Why did our inflation rate reach 54%? And we should clap for ourselves because now we are at 40. There's been a reduction. Are we serious? We gave them teens. Inflation rate was about 16%. We had 40 something percent. On what basis? Still with Russia, Ukraine, and COVID? It's borrowing and lack of investment in production. You told us that you are coming to do production, not taxation. We have never seen taxes like this, and they are adding to it. Why anybody would even think that we should continue with MPP? I mean, I'm not being flippant. They failed. They failed based on normal standards and comparisons. But when you add the promises they made, Agbena, the game is over. They should be out completely. We only have to suffer this for one more year. Why? So the budget was never going to do anything, because if we don't meet certain targets, why up to now why hasn't the second tranche of money come from the IMF? So this budget had to clearly demonstrate that there's some revenues that they will generate, and that is why they couldn't run away from some taxes, because IMF will not release you the money till they are sure that your revenue base. And I don't know why they don't want to cut government expenditure. And you see, people, they assume that the people you are doing, everybody cannot be stupid all the time. I mean, how much money have you just spent on primaries that you have money for? You were able to spend that amount of money on primaries, 2 superdelegates, and then subsequently the main primaries. And one of your biggest forerunners has left your party and told you that the type of politics you are playing, I'm not interested. It is not free and fair because the monetization is just too much. So I'm clear. And you ask the question, they should come and answer. The money, it has been filtered away. It's in people's personal bank accounts. Why? We found 1 million in somebody's house. And the person didn't even know the money was gone. In dollars. We are not talking cedis. The person doesn't even know the money is gone. And you ask, when that type of money is gone, you report to police. How can you take counterfeit to go and buy weed? You understand what I'm saying? You report the matter to police. How are you going to explain to the police why you have that amount of money in your possession, personal, when your government has been going around, government after government have been saying, let's increase the banking, let's put monies in banks. You have put 1 million in your house. That means that the money itself is suspect. 1 million. And that is just one figure. There were other amounts as well in different currencies. So when you ask where is the money, let's go into their houses. Where is the money? The money is with them.
And the money is supposed to be with them.
It is why? The money is not supposed to. It's government money. Why is it with them? I mean, it doesn't make. Look, MPP. You can support them. You are MP. They have failed. Though. If you take normal standards, you take all the macroeconomic indicators: inflation, debt to GDP, loans,
bonds, investment,
exchange rates. Before you go to areas of investment, what money? Look, some of the things, I don't want to be petty, but you ask yourself, what is the thought process? I was a former health minister. If you come and say, I will build 88 hospitals in 1 year. 8 months to an election. I won't, but I can forgive you for saying it is political campaigning talk to buy votes. Because it's impossible. You can't build 88 hospitals in 1 year. It's impossible. In Ghana, I'm looking at the Ghana economy and the way it's impossible. I've been a health minister, you can't do it. Even getting the land is a problem. Even getting the land for the hospital is a problem. Yes. You get fights. So to say I'll build 88 hospitals in 1 year, it's not doable. Getting the construction, getting the signing document, it's not doable. We suffered that humiliation. And you won election. Then you change the 88 hospitals. After you've seen that you couldn't do anything in 1 year, you change the 88 hospitals to 111. And now you said 18 months. Why? We are not thinkers. Now, we are now 7 years, or at least from the time of the promise, which was in 2021. We are now almost 3 years from that promise. The 18 months is long gone. The 12 months on the 88, which was in 2020, is gone. How many of those hospitals are finished? How many? 0. So even if tomorrow you show me 20, you have failed. If tomorrow they say, oh, these are 20, or this is even 3, you have failed. Because you gave your deadline and it's already passed. Point number 2. You are building 111. But if you had decided to build 20, perhaps those 20, the money you have used on 111, those 20 would be finished by now. Because you wouldn't have spread yourself thin. You would have been able to put enough in those 20 to make sure that they are up. Even 10. Forget the 111. 10 keke. You have not done that. You are trying to build all the 111 simultaneously. Who does that when you don't have money sitting down? Because you haven't even told us where you were getting the money from. The first question we had asked, if you are going to build 111 hospitals or 88 hospitals, where is the money from? You said, Nyami Woho. We are all watching. Why? The same God you pray to is the one I also pray to. But he does what is best for all of us. So if you go and tell people what is untrue, don't expect your God to answer that question. Because he gave you the brain to think. Let me learn on the final matter of that hospital matter. Now, if you bring tomorrow 20 hospitals down, where's the staff going to come from? What is happening with your nurses? What is happening with your doctors? What is happening with your technicians? They are leaving the country in droves. So if today you had 111 hospitals, forget 120. Even the hospitals that exist, you don't have staff. So where is your plan to increase the number of doctors, to retain the ones you have? Where is your plan? Is it in the budget? Have you said anything about retention of staff in the budget? And if so, what is the plan? So that is where I'm coming from. Look, the MPP have no plan. They simply don't. They are very good at rhetoric, painting beautiful pictures. But when it comes to actual work, there is no comparison between any of the people who have led and John Mahama. Forgive me. That man is looking like a saint. Because at least he delivered. Go to the University of Ghana Medical Center and see hospital. Go to Shah Usuruku Go to all the hospitals dotted around the country. Go to the E blocks and see school. With how much money? Compared to what you have taken. And he's the problem. Have we ever had a situation in our country? We have lived harmoniously as Muslims and Christians. All of a sudden we are raising the temperature on religion because of a particular individual who we are not sure whether is Christian or Muslim. And I say that not being facetious. He's definitely seen as a Muslim, but he is giving himself to Christ indirectly. Some of the things he does as a Christian, as a Muslim, it's not done. Nobody said don't go to a church. Why? I go to mosque. But you never see me down praying the way they pray. And even the mosque, when you go, when they are doing their particular function, you don't enter. When you are a visitor, you go at a certain point. When they are doing their particular prayers, you are not part of that. Because you are not of the faith. Church you can't find. But if you go to church and say that we all know that Christ is the Savior of the world, you have now become a complete Christian. That is the foundation of our faith. Our faith is premised on the fact that Jesus Christ is coming again and he's the Savior of the world. And that we see him as a Savior, the Messiah. So if you are preaching what the Messiah is and say that is what we all know, when your faith, the Muslims see him, they recognize Jesus Christ, but they see him as a prophet, a unique prophet, but not as the Savior. That is what you said. Is the videotape is there. So why are you bringing all this? Why is there the need to be bringing all this religion in? We have lived harmoniously with our brothers all this time. Why is it an issue? Because you couldn't bring tribe. You're a northerner, but John Mahama is also a northerner. But assuming we did have, a northerner, would he be saying that you must vote for a northerner? As he's saying that you must vote for me because I'm a Muslim. Why this type of religious, tribal type arguments being brought by MPP again? Why is this? We don't want it to. We want peace. And the three issues that cause problem in the world: religion, tribe, land. These are the three major war causing huge in the world. So when you are delving into those things, you have to be careful. It's a bad line that they have taken. And somebody should, because now he's the flag bearer. Somebody should call him to order. You should withdraw some of those statements and move away from that type of argument. We don't need it in Ghana.
The conversation to understand how governmental processes has been ensuing for a very long time. People keep asking, do we not have a systematic way nationally, probably enshrined in the Constitution, to guard the development of this country? At least we could cite Agenda 2020, which was looking for a common developmental purpose and other stuff. With you agree with Agenda 2020 as a national agenda and different other scope, because the allies, the CIs that enact or establishes authorities that are supposed to run certain developmental stuff in this country are all enshrined in the Constitution. Yet the constitutional system that's supposed to guide the development of this country has been reduced to party manifesto promises. Why is that the case?
I think that the concept of the NDPC, National Development Planning Commission, is laudable but has to be revisited. Because if you do not let political parties be seen at the forefront of any plan that the country is supposed to follow. It becomes a question of who takes credit. And therefore, any political party who comes, no matter how good the plan is, they will say that because it was done under this person's regime, and it is not clear-cut that it is a joint effort by all, we will not follow it, because if it succeeds, it means that that political party gets the credit. That's all this is about, as far as I'm concerned. So, look, you have Ghana Beyond Aid. Before you had Ghana Beyond Aid, NDC had done the 40-year plan. And then you go back and you come back with the Agenda 2020 and every political party since 92 or 2000, thereabouts, has had a plan for Ghana. And every time a new government takes over, they do not identify with that plan. They decide to bring their own plan. And therefore, till such time that we make the NDPC, even though we have people from different political parties, it is seen under a particular governance. We have to get it to be seen as the political parties themselves are involved and they bring their representatives, so that when the plan comes out, it is not seen as the government's plan. It is seen as Ghanaians' plan that all of us have agreed to, and therefore it is then easier for everyone to follow it. But without giving any reasons why a plan is good or not good, we abandon and we create our own. So Ghana Beyond Aid is what we have now. Ghana Beyond Aid is a nice lyric, because we are seeking aid more now than before. So even the title of it has failed us. So, and that is for me where that particular problem. So what then happens is, if you have a proper plan which everybody has agreed to, if a political party is coming out with a manifesto and there's something in the manifesto that doesn't tie in with the plan that we've all agreed, it can be challenged. Oh, why aren't you following the plan? This thing you are saying, it doesn't go with our plan. And don't forget, the plan is always written in broad terms, so the manifestos are more specific. And then the implementation of a plan too is important. And that's why it's difficult, because look, let me give credit to school feeding program. It was brought under Akufo. It's a social democratic ideal, but it was implemented under property owning democracy, Kufuor's government. Very good ideal. We laud it. How did they implement it? They sent the school feeding program to schools where their children were going to, which don't need it. So it's been implemented. But implemented how? So when we came to power, we now had to now expand it more to cover schools that needed it really, as opposed to schools that had it. But once you're giving somebody, it's the sort of you can't take back. And it was partially because of that the donor funding was withdrawn. Because the donors say, how can you be giving, you have all these schools where they are struggling, and you have given school feeding program to schools where people who can afford are benefiting. So we cannot give you fund for it anymore. And NDC government had to come into power, expand the net, so that it now covered schools in the rural areas that needed school feeding program. Instead of, excuse me to say, the top schools that we know, Achimota, Infants Payment, they didn't need school feeding program. Not that they don't need it, but their need is less than those in the rural areas. And we didn't do that. So you can have a plan. You can have an agreement. The implementation would be based on how people's ideology is. And that's why our ideology of property owning, where them first before others, we think others before them. Period.
So to the detriment of the development of this country and sustained development of this country is only about who claims
credit.
That's it.
Yeah. Why is it that you have Terminal 3 and they can't commission it? Because it's given Mahama credit. Fortunately, that was finished. Why? You see, when we talk about President Mills' Mahama administration, look, Mills gave us a direction. Nana Addo failed to follow it. He failed. And he has set our country back, I say, over 30 years. When Mills came to power, George Book Walker Highway was finished in his time. He acknowledged that the funding and the setup was under President Kufuor. He invited President Kufuor to commission the opening of that road formally. That is leadership. When Bui Dam was going to be commissioned, President Kufuor had left. That Bui Dam was actually started in Kwame Nkrumah's time and abandoned. President Kufuor came, looked at our power energies and decided, I will do Bui Dam. Finished it off. When it was finished, it was under Mills and Mahama. We called him to the commissioning. Which commissioning has Nana Addo called President Mahama for? Which commissioning? You see, simple things give a signal to the nation. We may be on opposite sides, but I'll give you credit where your credit is due, so that we can all move forward. He has set us back 30 years. Who is going to call Nana Addo for any commissioning when he himself couldn't do it for simple things? Terminal 3, which is being loaded across Africa. Oh, this airport of Ghana, blah, blah, blah. You can't call him to commission. Why? What type of politics is this? Our politics has gone backward. The same old Matimu type politics that Kwame Nkrumah was facing and talking, they are trying to take us back there. But no, there's hope on the horizon. There's hope. And that hope is called John Mahama. We will not take this. And we will get Ghana back on track.
Honorable Alex Segbefia is a former Minister of Health and has held so many other positions in the service of this country. And we are setting fire up, trying to find one or two things in the governmental system. On this same scope, I have a single question left to shoot on this subject after the break. Then we'll zoom into other sectors of the economy. We'll be right back. Twaso, like a television, Casafidi, Cassia, no so, no, Comono, Coso, so no. Mr. Mamo, Quenya, Selbers and no question, Nadia Bray, WhatsApp. Any year we say test so 0551 55 55 06 over Sunday Ediaba na feedo ebrene beno na mashase ebusabusa on your behalf honorable na anse ne bedu sa time no da so ewon simfo kakra ebusa enti clearly ministers of state as you were Deputy Minister of Deputy Chief of Staff there wokwa de wadwuma ason kra because mwangasa na more run economy ni nyina president here bibia chief of staff bibia be ko bibia be wura economy ni bibia chief of staff table so say etumi efaso. So here is the case. As a former deputy chief of staff, he most likely have run the country through a technocratic seat which came as an appointment by the favor of belonging to a party that is in power. If you want to properly explain such appointment that is issued. As a deputy defense minister, he understands how this country has been secured and the threat security and all of that has been sustained and maintained. As a former health minister, he knows the ins and outs of how dialysis is this expensive or cheaper relatively. So, if he is an embodiment of this experience and knowledge, then he's closer to answering this question I have. Honorable, or Alex,
Preferably.
Yes, Alex. Why do you politicians, I don't forget that you are Guineans too, but why do you politicians know what you know? As a matter of fact, know that we need this kind of system or process to develop the country, yet to the detriment of your political gains, you switch the sides. Why do you do that?
I'm not clear about your question, but let me attempt. Maybe I will get it right, maybe I won't. Firstly, let me clarify an issue. Anytime you are a deputy, you work to a boss. You don't make your decisions. So when I'm deputy chief of staff, I work to the instruction of my chief of staff. That's where the power is, not with the deputy. When I'm deputy defense minister, I work to the instructions of my minister. That's where the power lies in terms of the ministry. So I've been both deputy chief of staff, deputy minister of defense, but I've also been a minister of health. So I know the level of responsibilities when you're a deputy you have and when you're a fully substantive officer. And they are different. The buck really stops mostly with you at the substantive position. But when you're a deputy, you have camouflage or a hiding place. You can hide under your minister. That's why when you are at that position, be careful what you sign. You may not have the authority to. You may not have the authority to sign certain things, and you set yourself up to fail. I needed to make that clear because people don't sometimes understand the governance structure or try to bend it. But when trouble comes, you know your level. And that is important. But with regard to knowing what is right and people turning or twisting, the issue of health is such that as a government, not even as a government, you have to know how to prioritize and what the issues that are coming at you are. When you spend in the health sector, invariably, in inverted commas, it is not an income generating avenue. It has long-term benefits, but not immediate. Because a healthy nation produces more. An educated nation produces more. That's why health and education are the pillars. But when you are investing in it, you don't immediately see the outcome. When you want to build a road and you toll it, you can get revenue based on the toll immediately. When you are educating a child till he gets to working age and is producing, that investment is latent, or it comes subsequently. The same with health. To get a healthy nation, you must spend initially. So you have to look at revenue that is generated by the country and pump it into your health care system. Ghana has a peculiar, or most African countries, in the developed countries, or those that are seen as financially more stable, they have a singular problem of non-communicable diseases. They have gotten past the communicable disease era through vaccinations. So you never hear, because of the climate and whatnot, about malaria, pox, smallpox, elephantiasis, all those things in Europe or developed countries. They vaccinate, they give you your MMR, etc., to deal with rubella, mumps, all those things, as a matter of course. So they do not suffer communicable disease as an issue. We are still suffering with malaria. It's our biggest killer. And there is no vaccine. There are vaccines out now to minimize. But as a cure, Not 100% yet. We are working towards it. And we have other complications. Now, we are now suffering what the rest of the world also suffer, which is the non-communicable diseases. So all of a sudden, you have renal or kidney issues. You have cancer. You have diabetes. These are caused normally by the terminology, you are what you eat. So our eating habits have changed.
Right.
And they have changed also because our planting and our food habits have changed. In the past, the subsistence farmer will go to the farm, plant his cassava without fertilizer, without insecticide, go and weed, have plenty children to help him, and they will eat what comes that God gives without any enhancement. Now we do spraying to get insects from attacking our crops. We use fertilizers. We use weedicides to kill the weeds and try and protect the plants, etc.
And modify genetics.
Then, so what we are eating is not what we were eating 40 years ago. And some of these things are creating problems. Also, we are using local herbal treatments, which, unlike Lucky herbal products, I'm doing advertisements for you, they go through a very scientific process. And so if I take this mixture, no matter where I go and buy it, even though it's herbal, the content of it is the same everywhere. So when I buy my Lucky herbal, it's a good product because it has gone through certain regulations. But we have a lot of products where the person is mixing it in his home with it. So 1 minute this is the concentration of this, the next minute it has dropped it. So you don't have consistency. And that is spiking our kidney, liver, etc. Then you have lifestyle issues. This idea that I've had a long day at work, then I will come home. They have done pochilala fufu with all kinds of animal farm in it. 8 o'clock in the night, I'll deal with it. And I'll be praising my wife. The best meat has been left for me, because they say what? You are the man of the house. You die before your wife. Yes, you will die before your wife. Because you are killing yourself slowly with a good lifestyle. You should have eaten that in the afternoon, so that you have enough time to burn it. So lifestyle is a big issue. So apart from what the government will do, we as government must be enhancing lifestyle. You know, it's not by mistake that you go to Japanese factories in Japan. When they get there, the first 10 minutes, from 8 to 8:10, everybody go and do exercise, raise your leg. Because they know that people are coming to the desk, just come and go. They go home. No, you do exercise. They don't drink cold water. Tea or natural, normal water. That is lifestyle. But when you were eating your fufu or akmele okro soup at 8 o'clock, there had to be a glass of beer, a bottle of beer, cold, chilled, next to it to give you appetizer. Or was that not the case? And then to box it for it to, and then from there, even before you leave the table, you are snoring because I'm good. Straight to the bathroom, straight to your bed. You die early. You'll be sick. And who has caused it? So lifestyle, I'm a victim of it. I know. Lifestyle is a big problem. So even before I get to the issue of what government should do or not do, we have to spend a lot of time educating our people and changing our lifestyles. It's not helping us. So when you have all these mixtures, you have good products like Lucky and others which are, then you have our non-traditional herbs, and many of them are good. No, I'm not knocking it, but some too are killing us slowly. Because to cure the boil that you had on your hand, but it didn't tell you what was happening to your kidney. It didn't tell you what was happening to your liver. And because he killed that boil, every 3 months you take it. Some people say that, oh, I have worms, so they'll be taking certain. Meanwhile, the thing is not about worms. You have self-diagnosed. See a doctor, a good doctor, and get a proper conventional diagnosis. Many people are told, oh, you have diabetes. But because they can't afford the drugs, they then have to resort to herbal. They can't afford the drugs for cancer, etc. Because these are not. So how does the government now bring some of this under the national health? Till you can increase the pot, you won't get it. That's why when those 2 oil wells came, the question that I immediately said, why didn't you just take 1% and say 1% for health, 1% for education? Stay here, don't move. We are building a chest. We will touch it after the first 5 years. Let's see how much it is. And then we can push it into NHIA. In the interim, let's plug the holes of corruption.
Honorable Hold, now may announce may WhatsApp and test lines, no? Mr. I want 4 questions. I shall see about. For also dear Ebra. Any question be as a Ghanaian, no? Who share politician na Kawa Kwenya? We said, and then so the Akofab dia Bremono. What did you mua? Mua when ye Sebio Tafrache party in Chanhua communication, no? Campaigning in our nationally at the Shannon sa. Why time 2 times? Not just say a mood to the extent say the man 2 times. Well, room chief of staff. Be air code realm defense, that is security, peace, stability, or realm health, which is one of the 2 major pillars of any economy in the world, and also was survey our honor. So, wakwenye nie se obebusa question. Na wososo wahunu se impa omaino yebu na wadwempo ene utimpo ensoso eka ho 0551 55 55 06 na oba WhatsApp now they are tested now they are back near Jebre Akinkan. So Alex, you are making a yes.
So I'm just saying that as a government, how to increase the pot in the national health insurance to cover these ailments, because you see, if I'm educating my child from class 1 to class 5, or from 1 to GSS, it's a long period, but it is finite. Some illnesses are not finite. So if you get into an illness, it can become finite if you change your lifestyle. But out of 100% people who are ill, how many of them actually change their lifestyle? So some people are on medication from the moment they start till they die, they are on that medication. So if the pot is not constantly growing to help to cover some of these, if you're on dialysis, unless you get a transplant, your body does not heal. You have to change your lifestyle significantly and take certain advice before, in some cases, you can have a reversal. But conventional medicine will tell you that it's highly unlikely. That's why they do transplants. But transplants, there are some organs you can't transplant. There's no, I haven't heard of liver transplant. Maybe it exists, but no. If your pancreas plays up, it's gone. That is it. So you don't, there are some organs. You can change your kidneys. You can get a heart bypass. You can do things with the heart, get help. Some organs, they are made to function. When it ceases, you have ceased. It's as simple as that. So there's a lot of education, but a lot has to do with lifestyle. And if you incorporate drinking of water regularly, some form of exercise. You see, I was joking about it, but it's a fact. Her wife gets up in the morning, she's looking after the children, she puts them, wash them, send them to school, comes back, cook. Listen, all that is exercise. You get up, they have ironed your dress, you put it on. You get up, you get to your table, the food is there, you eat. You go, you sit in a car, or you join transport, you get to your work destination, you work. You buy some small food, because you know that they are cooking for you in the house. You come back, you eat. All that time, your wife was washing, cleaning pots, doing this, doing that. So without knowing it, she's constantly exercising. And you are not. You are sitting in front of a computer. So what we used to think as women being cheated, in the long run, if you go and check the statistics, you will see that I believe, and I stand to be corrected, that there are more widows than widowers. The widows are plenty, but the widows, coupled with the fact that, okay, men normally will marry women who are younger than them, or women want women, but taking that aside, we die quicker because our lifestyle is not good. So for me, this question you have asked, as a former health minister, I always happen, let's see how best we can change our lifestyle, our eating habits. But yes, government has a huge part to play. And in terms of what is happening in Kolebu with regard to the dialysis, it's very, very, I mean, how much was involved? The amount political parties spend on their primaries would have paid that bill 10 times over. Yet, people are dying because they can't do dialysis. And the question is the NHIA strong enough to carry that bill or not? They have to sit down and see a clear source of revenue to deal with some of these non-communicable diseases that have now become a part. So Ghana deals with two issues. Communicable, you know, there was a problem with paying for vaccines for this at a certain point by this government, unheard of, unprecedented. So illnesses that we never used to see started coming. And then there was also the issue of now dialysis, diabetes, cancer, etc., etc. So our hands are full. But if one of the things I find, which we don't do very well as a country or as a people, is we do not communicate. We do not explain positions to people. We don't let people understand that sacrifices have to be made. The reason we are making these sacrifices for this purpose, no. They will either be quiet or cook, because at the end of the day, when people ask you stringent questions, it will show that some other aspects of the no-kufio syndrome are playing part. So you don't want that question to come. So everybody keeps quiet on the issue.
We the ordinary Ghanaian, the exception of the Ghanaian who has either chosen green, blue, red, white, black, whatever, as a place I am going to be, a place I would only understand, a place I would only subscribe to regardless, an entrenched, positioned Ghanaian. Apart from that Ghanaian, the learning Ghanaian, the Ghanaian with the malleable kind of mentality, the Ghanaian who is in a space where reality of the economy and the challenges of this country has and is shaping his or her course or understanding to what things are and how our politics are being run in this country. See things like about 80 E-blocks not continued. Segbefia housing project left to rot. They see capital intensive projects like schools, like hospitals, and so many other infrastructural development, which, you know, by simple terms could be just completed and not to just begin new ones, as it has been the mantra, the norm of the day. Are you not wasting our money?
We are wasting your money. And that's why I said earlier that there's hope on the horizon. One of the cardinal statements that John Mahama has made is that I will finish unfinished. projects. He's not coming to say, oh, this one was started by MPP, so I won't do it. He will say, this was started by us, we will finish it. This was started by MPP, we will finish it. In terms of how we prioritize what those items are coming to achieve.